Good morning, Vietnam! Sorry, I had to get that out of my system. Uh, the title of this video is Black Scout Survival is Boring because I just watched like 15 minutes of a 40-minute video and had to turn it the fuck off. And like, he played some video of some trans chick in a church or some shit. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And then he's like, and this is why we're in the end times. And I'm like, I could see that, but I disagree. I like this is the thing is watching some people's channels now that are super religious is just like sad because of the lie that these people have been told their entire lives about God, religion, the Bible, and the end of the world. This is the end of this world. We're watching the birth of the next. I don't know how that goes. Could be good, could be bad. Do you have faith? I have faith. You really think that God doesn't have a plan? You really think that you're all knowing and that you know what is to come? You think you can predict the unpredictable? You think you can predict a man that, you know, has done things from, appears a burning bush to have his son nailed to a tree for reasons? Like, I don't fucking know what the plan is. I don't pretend to know what the plan is. I assure you that there is a plan. Currently, the plan is to punish the Democrats and various others. There's a lot of people here that need to be punished. And, you know, be a good person, be yourself, and spread joy where you go and take no fucks. You'd be amazed what happens to you. As far as other things in the news go, because that's not really what the whole video is about. I just wanted a title to get people to click. The rest of the video, I don't know. I was watching fucking Canadian Prepper talk about our southern border. Sorry, 1 second. Weed cough. Anyway, it keeps the COVID away. That's what I keep telling myself. I was watching Canadian Prepper talk about our southern border, and he does a normal job of taking something that's probably not that big of a deal and blowing it out of proportion to the point that I'm freaked out about it. I am concerned about what happens when our federal government collapses along our southern border because, like, Texas, Oklahoma, and Arizona are not the kind of states that are just going to welcome you in if you're in the millions. New Mexico might. They're a really liberal Democratic state. I don't know. But Texas, for sure, if they are freed up of the federal government, they're going to have all sorts of creative solutions to put you in a hole. And I think we should. At this point, we are being attacked by an army of people. There are 4,000 people a day pouring across our border. You know, at what point do you put up a big ass fucking concertina wire thing and some machine guns and be like, no mas? That's where we're getting to. And like a lot of this is caused by the whole world is going through some shit, and people are trying to get here to save themselves and their families because they know no matter what, we'll be okay. And that may be true. I don't know. I think some of us will be okay. I think some of us most assuredly will not be. We are watching the collapse of the free world in real time, in my opinion. I think we've been watching it since COVID. I started partying like there was no tomorrow somewhere around 2 weeks into COVID when the 2 weeks didn't end. Yeah. Like I was already way on my way to coming out to people. And like that really had nothing to do with this, but I think it's hilarious that I got asked a while back if I was having a midlife crisis because I sold a bunch of guns. I'm like, I lost 260 pounds in a year and changed genders, but sure. Yeah, I'm fine. I wouldn't say it's a midlife crisis. I would say I saw a friend of mine die and went, what is really important to you? Why are you doing this? Why do you get up every day? And I was leading a double life. At night I was Rachel, and during the day I was the other person, and I don't even like that person. Like this is the real me. The other me was a like facsimile of what I thought I had to be in order to fake it. Like there's very few people who ever met like the real me. Like my buddy that I'm buying land with, for whatever reason, we connected right off the bat, and we've hung out enough that like he's probably met multiple me's. To be honest, and like that's the nature of being kind of an actor. Like I'm really good at playing different characters and doing infiltration. Tell me a bit about the people that I'm going to be meeting, and I will get in tight with them. That's what I do good. Like it's not a good way to be. It is a very useful skill set though, and like I liked the internet because I could just go and sharpen that toolbox all day long. I've infiltrated so many online groups that the conversation that I had with the FBI at one point was interesting. It was basically like, well, either you are a terrorist kingpin or you're some sort of like crazy person that just likes to talk to criminals. Like, yeah, we had a 2-hour conversation on the state of the internet. Basically, it was an interesting phone call, and for whatever reason, I think this is fun. I think it's fun to do. I've you know pretended to be a Nazi on the internet. I've pretended to be various things. Like I had fake accounts, galore. It's interesting to get into people's heads. I think this is like the anthropology aspect of me that most people don't see. Is I went to school for anthropology, and I find people fascinating, and I find weird, tiny groups of hateful people really fascinating. Like this is why the phone call with the FBI lasted so long. It wasn't like I was giving them fucking info or some shit. It was I'm a scientist that studies the thing that they're looking for. So I don't know if that phone call helped them at all. Probably didn't, but it's funny to me. There's a lot of extremists on the internet that I don't agree with. And if your whole thing is that you're gonna fucking commit violence or whatever, then I'm really not for that. I think we should do something at this point, but like the something that we should do is like secede. Like, I think they're doing shit where we, on like a state level, could just back the fuck off. And that's why I don't think there's any call to do violence and that kind of a thing. Like, that's why I really didn't have any problem talking to the FBI for 2 or 3 hours about people looking to do bad shit and where to look for them. And if that's you, I would pray that you turn to God and, I don't know, learn a different path. Like, that's half of my thing. Is like, I don't have any fucking problem killing people. I have a problem murdering people. And there's a distinct difference there. Like, killing someone in self defense is one thing, coldly murdering someone because of a political belief is another. And that's what I'm against. Now, if it comes to war, war is war and shit happens. But like, you should try to keep civilian casualties to a minimum. But at the same time, in a civil war between the states, who knows how that's going to go? I think we're about to watch a lot of people die, and I would hope that anyone listening to me tries not to add to that. Like, try to save people. No, it's crazy, right? Like, there's one side of people that are like, you shouldn't get involved and shit hits the fan type stuff. Like, in the end of the world, you see something going down and you're not involved in it, you just keep walking, right? Well, then there's me, who's like walking a different path, I guess. Like, I don't intend to get involved in shit that I can't handle, but if I see something in my sphere of influence that I can stop, I'm going to. And the reason that I would do that is because I'm willing to take it all the way. I'm willing to kill all of the people that come looking for that dude if he was doing something bad enough. And that's what you need to understand in the end of the world. When you kill one person that's out doing bad shit, he's probably a part of a gang. Eventually they're going to come looking for him. So really, if you kill one person, you need to be prepared to kill probably about 50. And like, me personally, I'm looking for scalps on a belt. So that sounds like a jolly good way to make a living to me. If that's not you, I wouldn't do that. I would go hide. And like, I think this is where people like myself and whoever my husband is in the end of the world, that's, riding the lead motorcycle in our Marauder band, I think that's how we're going to make a living. I think there's going to be good money in fucking cleaning out fucking shitheads. Even if you just do it for the shit that they have gathered, you know, come through an area and make it to where there are no gangs and then leave. Half of my thinking in doing that is, I want loot, I want treasure, and I want a band of merry men that do my bidding. And I think the best way to do that in the end of the world, that, is moral at all, is hunting scum. There'll be scum out there who are fucking hoarding shit, you know. And like, that's the thing is, like, when I say hoarding shit, I don't mean like hoarding up food or whatever. I mean, like, I want to like take all their tech and all of their fucking gold and put it in a wagon that we pull behind our fucking battle rig or some shit and just have that shit because it's cool and then like give away the food. Like, this is the shit that, like, if you start doing that, eventually your movement will grow. And this is like the thing that you can learn by studying the past. What made a Native American warrior great? It was his ability to command the respect of all of his other warriors. And that kind of shit will 100% beat out whatever the fuck the other people are planning. It's one of those like walk softly and carry a big stick, do good things where you go, and when necessary, beat the living fuck out of people. It's like, why does a king carry a scepter? King carries a scepter because he beats men to death in front of a crowd of other men. In order to command that kind of respect, you have to act a certain way. And if they see you not acting that way, they lose respect. You lessons. And this is like some ancient, like how you be a fucking ship captain kind of shit, but it applies 100% to leading a group of men in the end of the world. Not that all of you are necessarily going to do that, but some of you might. And like, I like to think of this podcast as hopefully the 5 or 6 people that end up being warlords or whatever at the end of this shit are all people that listen to my podcast. Like, this is not how you survive, really. This is like some prepping shit or whatever to get people interested in whatever, mixed with like this, like, samurai philosophy bullshit that I believe that, like, I really can't wait to have someone to fight. If I die, I die. I really don't care about that. I'm tired of living in the 21st century. They've made it to where I don't care to be here anymore. Like, if they do end it, if we do, have some sort of world ending event that there are no more fucking governments because of the nukes, yay. Like, honestly, I think we ought to round up all the fucking rich people and put them in a hole. Now, that sounds bad, but like, all of the Klaus Schwabs of the world are what's wrong. Like, everybody else just wants to like have their own fucking house and raise their kids and their kids to have their own house. Is there really so much to fucking ask? This country makes me sick. It's not even this country, really. It's this country has been infected by Europe. All of that shit in New York and California is Europe. It's not even America. I think we need to start treating it as such. We're in a civil war for this country. It's just not a hot one. Right now, it's a culture war. And like, my culture is John Milius movies, Star Wars, Star Trek, MASH, the Beverly Hillbillies. I don't know what else. There's a bunch of other shit that I like. Jeremiah Johnson. That's a John Milius movie. He wrote it anyway. This is the stuff that I now inform what I do on. Like, if you want to know why I think what I think about the world, go watch the movie Secondhand Lions and pay attention to the part where Hub McCann talks to the kid about what he should believe. That pretty much sums up what I believe in a speech. If you want to believe something, believe it. You know, it's doesn't matter what other people say or think or do or whatever. Like, you should probably take science into account somewhat, but we are at a point now where science is half bullshit half the time. So who gives a fuck about what it says? Okay, religion's lying to you. Everything's lying to you. So what do you believe? Listen to your heart and know that, like, God wouldn't ask you to kill a bunch of innocent people. And know that, you know, even at its darkest, you know, there's a point to it. There's a plan. We are going to come out the other side of this probably for the better, and we just don't see it yet. And I hope part of this plan is people like the Rothschilds and Klaus Schwab and George Soros and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and really pretty much all the rest of that crowd. I hope they all fucking, like, I don't want them to die. I want them to live forever being torn apart slowly by robots. Death is too good for them. That's my thoughts on them. And this has to do with the fact that these people pretend like they're not doing this. It's not us. I don't know how you could think it would be us. Their day of reckoning is coming. Honestly, I think there's going to be a nuclear exchange because of shit they've done. I don't know how big it's going to be. I don't know where it's going to be. I think Southeast Asia is probable. We're going to have to worry about fallout in the U.S. more than likely. And be like, oh, no, you wouldn't. Whatever. Like, fucking. Depending on where the nukes go off, the winds will either carry them into the southern hemisphere or the northern hemisphere. If they go southern, we wouldn't have to worry about it, but South America and Africa are going to get fucked. However, all of the places that I could think of that nukes might be exchanged are to the north. It's all Taiwan to Japan. So I would prepare for fallout. Not hardcore yet, but like, you need to start getting your supplies ready for it. If we're hit directly by nukes, that's one thing. Like, there's not much you can do about that. But fallout from Asia, this is a real thing that we might really have to face. That is survivable. That there's things that you could be doing now that would help you. That's, you know, not to be fear porn, but like, because of what's going on, you should be preparing for that. I should be preparing for that more than I am. Oh, I keep trying to decide if I want to sell my Flux Raider or not. I keep coming to no, I don't want to sell it. However, right now, if I sold this thing with all of its accessories and shit, it's probably like $3,000 or $4,000. And like, I could go into a gun store here and probably get a good portion of that. Just cash money today. And my wish list of shit for my car build on Amazon is like about $3,000 worth of shit. Some of it's preps, some of it's car build shit, but that is kind of fused into one list of stuff. It would be really dope to just be able to hit buy on that cart. I keep removing and adding things like I want an electric chainsaw because I have a solar generator and I found a DeWalt one that takes the DeWalt batteries, and I'm going to get other DeWalt tools eventually to go with it. But I think a DeWalt electric chainsaw is a must. And like this is the thing is I'm rigging out this minivan to like live on the side of the road in the end times. It's meant to go camping. It's meant to do a lot of things. It's an adventure vehicle, and a lot of people would be like, "I can't believe you picked a minivan for your fucking adventure vehicle or whatever." Well, here's my thing: is basically I'm planning on not being alone, more than likely. And I want to have a kitchen in the back of the minivan and a nice bed built into it, and a bunch of storage built into it, and kind of an office in the front. And it's kind of like a tiny home on wheels that, can be a daily driver in the here and now because it's a minivan. Like you can take it to and from. But in the end of the world, it gets 25 miles to the gallon, which is significantly better than almost anything else that approaches its carrying capacity as far as all that stuff I mentioned. Um, I could set it up to where we could put a couple motorcycles in a trailer or something like that, and it could be like the vehicle to drive to some place to go fucking biking or some shit. I don't know. Like I'm planning this vehicle as a thing for me just to go have fun camping in, and it blends into you know dude's plans. Like this is the nature of like being a girl, I guess. Like I don't see a reason to plan to be out there all alone. And like even if I am all alone, wouldn't it be nice to have, something where you could put like a dirt bike on the back of this thing and have it as like the adventure vehicle, you know? You're driving to where you're going to bike kind of thing. That's even if you're alone. I think like a bike rack kind of thing on the back is something that's going to get eventually. The roof, I want to do a bunch of shit, but I want half roof rack, half solar. And I think I'm going to build something out in front of those two because I'm going to have room for it. I don't have a full plan on it yet, but I'm going to get some of that like 1 inch square pipe with holes in it and build a rack out of that to bolt shit to. And I have a roof rack on Amazon that I've picked out that's skinny, and I want to use it for propane and gas and water, that kind of shit. Have a bunch of tanks up there. If you are out there alone, the passenger seat would open up options on a whole bunch of stuff you could build in storage there. Or really, like my plan is just to pile the luggage there because like I'm gonna be living out of a backpack probably and a duffel bag, and just put those there along with extra shoes and shit. I did like the coolest rattle can paint job on my Mom Mobile of Doom. It looks like stripes of green and brown and black kind of alternating. I left some of the gold base peeking through, I left. The first thing I did was just spray random black shit all over the place on it. I left some of that through, but then I did green and brown stripes that were about 6 inches long and about an inch wide, and just kind of did that all over the car in a random pattern. It looks pretty good. I have my eye on a crocodile skull on eBay that I'm going to buy, and I have a piece of antler that I'm going to cut the tines off of and somehow affix them to this crocodile skull, and then somehow affix that skull to my hood of this minivan because that's an alligator Loki, and like I'm turning a minivan into a Mad Max mobile. Like it's Loki-ish. I think it's fitting. Also, there's a lot of greens involved here, and when I'm done, hopefully, this will be a badass little mobile home if it needed to be. Like, I think this is cool. I don't know why you would want any other kind of vehicle in the here and now. And like, when I say that, I sold my FJ for a bunch of reasons, but this was the main one. Is I knew I could get a minivan for less than 10 grand that would serve me better, get better gas mileage, and be a better thing to convert into the thing that I'm converting it into. The only thing I wish that this had was four-wheel drive. My old FJ had four-wheel drive that you could shift in and out of. I wish this had that, but like it was $2,000. The one that I was looking at for 10 grand was a Toyota, and it had four-wheel drive. And I wish I had bought that one, but at the same time, I kind of like Ghost Rider. She's kind of perfect. And honestly, I've abused the fuck out of that car, and she started right up. It's a good sign. I like the fact that she has a brand new transmission, brand new drivetrain, brand new brakes, brand new a bunch of shit because they fucking ran out the insurance on that thing before I got it. And the thing that they salvaged it for or whatever was the fact that they knocked the bumper off. It was the bumper cover, which it's already off. I spray painted the bumper gray and the grill gray, and I'm gonna mount lights and a winch up there, and I don't know what else. And I've got a bunch of shit in my Amazon cart that's like a CB radio and a loudspeaker system, police siren thing. It does all of that. I don't really want the police siren, but I want the loudspeaker because that seems handy. Like I'm putting a bunch of gadgets into this car. What people haven't realized yet is that this is like a Batmobile, basically. It's gonna be able to do a lot of shit. It's like a fucking, Swiss Army knife of cars. Can your car, you know, hmm, what can it do? Well, it's gonna have a refrigerator in it that refrigerator freezer. It can do either one. It can't do them both at the same time. But, that gives you options. And the power source for it runs off of the solar and is powerful enough to do pretty much anything else you'd want in the van. However, I'm planning on getting a secondary power system and rigging it into the same solar bank and having it to power like a little office section with a laptop that's hooked into the car's audio system through the cassette deck. I'm going to mount that in there somehow. I've got this MacBook that I'm talking to you on now that I think I'm just going to dedicate to the car. Hopefully, I don't know. I might not do that. I really like this laptop. I really don't want to get it stolen, which that's half of the concern with it, putting anything on the car is that someone steals it or whatever. So inevitably, I think I'm gonna get an alarm system. I think that might be a purchase I do rather quickly. I don't know what else I would need for the car. Like, I have a list of shit, right? And I have a bunch of shit already. Um, I want a canopy that I can stow in the back of the car that I can put out over the tailgate to have as like a kitchen area. And I was looking at like having an awning on the side, and honestly, I think that's a waste. I think I'm just gonna do a canopy off the back. The awning on the side would be great, but I think it's gonna be a pain in the ass to take up and down and whatever. And like, I doubt I'm gonna use the little canopy off the back that much, to be honest. Much less roll out the fucking awning. You know, I want to have the canopy in case it's really fucking rainy. I might even have a couple of those because you can get those for like 79.99, whereas an awning for the side of the car that rolls up on the side of it that's always there, a cheap one of those is $300. And I don't know. I think I'm gonna be better off doing the other ones. Tell me what you think about that. If you do any kind of car shit and have overlanding stuff, do you like those roll up awnings on the side, or should I just get a tarp? Like, that's the other thing is I could get a couple of tarps and some rope and just park somewhere where there's trees. There's lots of options. I think it would be cool to have more gadgets on the car, but that's one of those things that could easily be cut for funds, you know? It would be really dope to have an awning on each side of the car and have a couple of those pop up things for the rear end just to give you options. My other concern is in the end of the world, if you have those things up and you go driving down the road because the marauders are after you, that might not be good. Whereas the tarps or canopy shit, you close the doors and it's gone. It'll just tear off pretty quick if it's on the car at all. And if it doesn't, well, then you get to keep your canopy. You know, maybe it might be intact. My point is, I see that going a lot better than having those awnings up. I think that is somewhat of a concern. It's not a large concern, but like this is the stuff that like I'm thinking about, and this is some of the stuff that we landed on a minivan for a lot of reasons. We landed on a minivan because it's relatively small and it's relatively mobile. Like if you get a fucking Unimog, good luck fucking doing anything with that. How is that your daily driver? It's not. It's like a fun thing to haul out every once in a while. The minivan is not the most fun thing to drive, maybe, but at the same time, it does everything that you need it to do. That's kind of where I'm at with cars. Uh, I don't particularly care for cars that much. Driving's not really my thing. And like, I've wanted a minivan with this built into the back of it ever since I've been driving. So like, this is my ultimate fantasy build or whatever, I guess. And like, that's the freedom that you get in buying a $2,000 car. Like, it's yours. You can do whatever the fuck you want to it. I love the way my car looks now. I keep going out and looking at the paint job. Like, I'm all proud of it. A lot of people fucking hate on me. Whatever. I like fucking simple shit, I guess. I like a rattle can minivan. And my thing is, I see the freedom in that vehicle. I see that I'm never going to have to pay for a paint job on that car ever again. If I do, it's buying a couple of cans of paint and changing up the camo. And I want to do that occasionally. That's going to be an evolving paint job. I love that. That's not for everyone. I get that. But like this is what we have resulted in life. It's like everyone thinks everyone wants the same things. You know, I I don't want a paint job that lasts forever. It's not as fun. I want to always remember the year or two that I had this specific paint job, and then I want to, add to it instead of getting rid of it, and then I'll enjoy that paint job for a year or two, and like so on and so forth until this car is dead, and then I'll go get another cheapo minivan. You know, what is the point of having a fucking V6 whatever thingamajigger if it doesn't mean anything to you and there's no gas for it? Okay, this car already means things to me. Like there's a story to it now. Like my other car, it's not like I hated it. It was never me. It's it's the best car that I could find because people made me pick a car. And I needed something to drive. It got me from A to B. It was expensive and fancy and whatever. It wasn't me. I never really cared for that car. And like I already love this stupid minivan. Like there's already things about it that are way cooler to me than that FJ ever was. And to be honest, as far as speed capabilities go, and as far as off-road capabilities go, they're not that different. Like off-road, the FJ was more capable because it had four-wheel drive and shit, but like really not by that much. Like the cool part about the FJ was you could literally go anywhere in it. I took it some crazy places. And like I don't know if you would do that same thing with the minivan. I think if you had a second vehicle and a winch on it, you could get it a hell of a lot of places. And I guess that's my point is for my needs, I like the minivan. If there's someplace really super crazy that I can't get into or whatever, I'm hoping to eventually have a dirt bike of some sort, something like that. I'd like to have that. And like that's my goal in this is that it's not that this is an off-road vehicle. It's the this is like a hunting van. That's what my uncle called it when he saw the camo paint job. I guess when I start putting skulls on the outside of it, it's going to start looking more that way. I really do want to put more skulls on it too than just the alligator Loki one. I kind of want to get a bunch of fucking like alligator and croc and other like reptile skulls and shit off of eBay and somehow make like a pile of them in front of like the solar panel and roof rack. Unless I use that area for something else. I don't know. I just think it would be funny to have like a pile of skulls on it. I'm going for a Mad Max motif. I have a skull in my front yard right now. It's a squirrel that it has a pelt attached to it. I don't know how long it was hanging up in my pine tree, but it's kind of squirrel jerky now. It's kind of disgusting. I don't think I'll put that on the van, but you could. Just have like random skulls. I want to get like a cow skull, complete with like horns, like a bull, I guess, not a cow. The buffalo skull. I have yet to figure out how I'm going to mount my flag onto my van, but I really kind of want to do that too. That's the thing is it's a pirate ship slash minivan. I don't even remember what we were talking about before we got off on the minivan ship. I like that thing. But this is why Black Scout Survival is boring, because he droned on for like 20 minutes and I just had to turn it off. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure people have found it difficult to listen to me high rambling or whatever, but I try to be entertaining, at least a little bit, sometimes. Sometimes I get off talking about something, get falling asleep. I'm sure I'm very boring to listen to too. I don't know. I feel a little bad about calling this video Black Scout Survival is boring, but he is. And like, you know, he was saying how a trans woman being in a church was a sign of the end times, so I think he's fair game. I don't think I've watched his channel that much. I think this is like the second or third time I've ever watched his shit. There's a lot of YouTubers that are boring as fuck, in my opinion. What kills me is when someone has an opportunity to do something that's not boring as fuck, and they're like, "Oh, we can't because of the drama." Like, bunch of fucking pansies. Not that I'm talking about anyone in particular, but there's someone in particular. The drama. Woo. Uh, I'm really enjoying this like short spear I made out of a cold steel Bushman. Playing with it while talking to you. I think like if you really want to do something with a cold steel Bushman, getting an oak dowel and putting it on the end of it, it's pretty good. Like it kind of makes it like a you know, baseball bat sized spear. So you could like beat the fuck out of people with it, and it's got a spear on the end of it. And it's a much heavier duty shaft than the broomstick that Cold Steel suggests. Which I tried that also. I have a Bushman on a broomstick, and honestly, I think as a throwing spear, that's pretty damn good. Like, I think as a thrusting spear, that's a little bit of a thin handle. In a modern context, using it for home defense is probably fine. But yeah, I would want something a little thicker. And that's where this oak dowel comes in. Was an inch and an eighth. And that's about right. I had to carve it down significantly to get the fucking socket on here. But, you know, it's just wood. The other thing I'd say is I would definitely use a sander. It would save you a lot of time over trying to cut this with a knife. I ended up finishing it up with a Dremel tool because my I don't have a belt sander right now. It's not entirely true. I have a little 1x30 in the garage, but it's on its last legs and it only has one or two belts, and they're old as fuck and they keep snapping. So I need to address that before I use it. I'm really digging making melee weapons, even just modifying cold steel shit. It's, I don't know, something to take the edge off of all the shit that's going on. Because, like, turning these bushmen into spears is the kind of shit that I like to do. Okay, like, it's not fun necessarily to do all of the shit involved in making everything, but, like, taking a head and hafting it on a handle is fun. It very rapidly changes something completely. And I think if you watch, like, Wrangler Star or somebody like that, you'll see that in axes or whatever. But it's the same thing with these bushmen, believe it or not. And these are really easy to do, and they're really cheap. These are like my new thing to pimp. Like, I'm gonna buy like a half a dozen or so more of these, and some of those are gonna be. I might even buy a dozen. I want some as gifts, some as throwing knives, and some as throwing spears. And I think the gifts that I'm gonna make are gonna be these oak handled short ones. Because, like, for a modern home defense spear, this thing is pretty fucking bitchin'. Like, it's not gonna break. It feels good because it's sanded, beeswaxed, flamed oak handle. Honestly, I might flame the whole thing on ones to give away. I don't know. People like the spiral. It is a cool thing. And the cool part about doing it with these oak dowels is they take a flame really fast, so you can do a spiral pretty good, pretty quickly. I kind of fucked up on this one a little bit, but it all evens out. I wish that there was like a sword that was as satisfying to do shit to as this Bushman is. I don't know what that would be. Like, I don't think anything could match putting handles on these because it completely changes this thing as a weapon. Like, honestly, without a handle on it, this thing is, it's okay. Like I said, it could be a good throwing knife. Short of that, I really wouldn't be that interested in it. Hafted to a handle, this thing has a lot of mass and it's very sharp. Like, this would go through people like nobody's business. And, like, even on a short shaft like this, it's amazing. Like, honestly, I think if you really wanted to get like the perfect version of this, if you cut this handle off at about 2.5 feet, something like that, I think it'd be pretty good. I don't know. I keep debating on that. Like, I could definitely cut this off, but I kind of think longer's better with spears. There's like karate weapons that are basically what I just described, a spear ish head with a 2 foot handle. Forget what those are called. They use them in combination with a small shield. So, like, that thing in combination with a buckler, there's all sorts of training and videos on how to use it. And this is some of the things with picking pretty historical weapons, is that there is instruction out there on YouTube, whether they're karate weapons or medieval weapons or like that scimitar. Like I'm watching right now stuff from India, that's a Sikh master in the Talwar, just going through various things. It's interesting. But the reason I'm watching that is because the Talwar and the scimitar are basically the same sword with different handles, and a lot of it transfers sword to sword. And I found his stuff interesting because he was fun to listen to, and he is an interesting sword fighter. Let's put it that way. Um, he's very old and he's very to the point. Like I've seen a lot of sword demonstrations from a lot of different people, and most of them, you know, display different things. They don't just do something and then they're like, well, now he would be dead. Like that's this guy's kind of thing, and like, yeah, it's kind of bullshit or whatever. But like at the same time, like his whole technique is trying to get that first strike, which I think is good. Like a lot of saving of movement to do very specific things. It's fascinating to see something that different than like fencing. It's like this guy is basically standing there and the other guy is doing fencing moves at him, and he's stepping inside of his guard, drawing his sword and killing him. And doing it in a believable way. Like I would like to see that dude versus other masters full speed doing that. But just based on some of the things that I saw him do, like it's very clear that he knows what he's doing. It's, it's fascinating from like a using a curved sword aspect, because it's all about different tricks to do with that. It's like what the whole thing is. It's interesting to me that no matter what kind of weapons you study, whether they're swords and knives or spears or fucking guns, you wind up finding the same kind of people. And like, I don't know how else to put that, but like, there are people that are into the sword community that I know people in the gun community that they must be related to or some shit. Like, you know, I'm not going to call out any names, but the brethren of Night Strudel are strong. A few other people too. Like, there's a strong genetic representation of a few different family groups. I like the sword community on YouTube. It's fun to watch those videos because, like, in reality, they get what the gun community doesn't get. And it's the gun community has this bent to it that, you know, this is modern self defense and yada yada yada, and it's very serious and whatever. And like the sword community on YouTube gets that these are basically toys for them. And the part that I find frustrating about most of the gun community is they're all people that these are basically toys for them. They don't really use these in their day to day lives. You know, maybe they carry a gun, maybe, but like, where do they go? You know, they go to the gun store, they go to the supermarket, and they come home. Oh, went to the movies, went to dinner. Like, so you carry a pistol when you leave your house? Okay. I don't know. It seems to me like that's a pretty low bar of entry for being this modern internet commando or whatever. I don't know. I just think that most of the gun community is as ridiculous as Shadiversity. But Shadiversity is like just admitting it to the world, and that's way more badass. Like, I've been talking with someone that lots of people hate. I don't want to talk. Well, I could. Old school, famous gun tuber. Everyone would know who he is if I said his name. And we've been talking about this basically, that there's a lot of groupthink. There's a lot of like the gun community that they don't even know why they do what they do. They like guns. Okay, well, to what point and or purpose? The guns that I own are set up for actually using them for real shit. I don't just own guns because of the Second Amendment. Okay? Like, that's one of those differences, I think, between, you know, the parts of the gun community I like and the ones that I don't. Like, I don't want to call out any names or whatever again, but like, there are these people that that have safes full of 200 guns that have never seen the light of day other than the couple of times they've taken them to the range. That's sad. I'm not saying that that's like, you know, horrible and no one should be able to do that. Do that if you want to do that. I'm just saying that, like, you need to realize that if that's you, that you're more Shadiversity than you are fucking, you know, what's his name? Travis Haley. Like, this is the thing that I see in the gun community is like, there's a significant portion of the gun community that is convinced that it's like Travis Haley or some operator bullshit or whatever. And like, that's going to get people killed. It's my prediction. And the thing that's going to get people killed about that is there's a whole lot of people that are buying gear for other people to loot off of their bodies because they don't have the training or physical conditioning or whatever to use all of said gear. You might be like, oh, well, that's you too. Well, I'm way harder to kill now than I was a couple of years ago. I've been working on myself quite a bit. And like preparing for the end of the world, I guess, is half of the motivation of it, but that really wasn't it. Like, this is the thing I think a lot of people don't get about my weight loss journey or bodybuilding or whatever it is that I'm doing is my goal was not to be a muscle bound hunk. My goal was to be hot. And I'm getting that way. I have weight to lose. But like, some parts of me are hotter than I ever thought they would be. So, I don't know. My goal was to be pretty and be able to kick someone's ass. And I'm well on my way to doing that. Pick what you want to do, whatever it is, and do it. But you need to know that whatever it is that you're going to do, you need to like dedicate yourself to pretty hardcore. And if you're buying all this fucking gear to be, Travis Haley operator, whatever, dude, you have a lot of other shit that should be squared away first. And that's kind of where I'm at with this Flux Raider, is that it is cool. I bought it because I wanted a toy. But like there's other shit that I really need that selling this would solve all of those problems. But then I wouldn't have a Flux Raider. So like I get this dilemma. Like this is something that I probably don't need. I have it basically as a good secondary weapon that I could pass off to a girlfriend. That's what this is. This is a gun to arm a chick with. Someone who's never shot a gun before, I think they using a Flux Raider with a red dot on it would be a much better asset to me than them using a 1911 or something. So like that is worth something, right? And like that's your safe of guns is worth something. All that cool operator shit is worth something. But it's all worth nothing if you can't get it to where it needs to be. And this is the point of like the minivan of doom or whatever, is that's a vehicle that I can afford the resupply on. I could keep that vehicle running probably indefinitely. Somewhat affordably. There's junkyards full of those things around here. That's why it's a good tactical vehicle for the future. It's not, oh, it has the best capabilities of this, that, or the other. No, I'm thinking logistics for the future. We're being sieged out, basically, one by one. They're sieging out all of the free people into fucking being in debt to them and fucking slaving away somewhere. Okay, you need to set your shit up, in my opinion, to endure. That's what the minivan's about. And that's what the guns, sorry, that's what the knives and swords are about instead of guns. Like, I have guns. Yes. I also have all of this other shit and know how to use it too, because I don't know how long we'll have guns. And given the nature of the state right now, it seems like eventually they're going to outlaw them and then round them up. And at that point, are you really going to be able to walk the streets of America with a gun? Like, this is stuff that I see in the future that is causing me to do some of the things that I am doing. And at the same time, I think it's a little ridiculous. But it's no more or less ridiculous than going out and buying a bunch of ammo. Maybe I should just buy ammo instead of buying melee weapons. But I wanted this kind of shit, and it was cheap to get. And I've pretty much got everything I want except for more Cold Steel Bushman. So I figure I'm going to buy more Cold Steel Bushman and get more ammo now. And it's not like I don't have a bunch of ammo. I do have a bunch of ammo, but I have maybe 10 or 12,000 rounds combined between everything. That's one of those, like, I felt safe enough on the ammo to worry about other shit. I've taken care of medical supplies pretty hardcore. I've taken care of food, bathroom stuff, and kitchen supplies. I'm taking care of water right now. am building a replacement water system for my GI canteen. I'm going to make a video on it. And I'm going to get a water filter too. I have a water filter for like a base camp right now, but I don't have a water filter to have in like a bag. And that's what I'm going to buy. I'm going to get a Katadyn Hiker Pro. Maybe get a couple extra filters for it. But this is where I'm putting my money and stuff. Is like, yeah, I bought a couple of melee weapons for fun. But I'm also solving, water problems, medical problems, power problems. I have heating and cooling somewhat solved. Like, I'm really going through the list of shit that I'm going to need. Pretty hardcore. And right now I'm debating take out the rest of that list, basically, for the Flex Raider, or keep the Flex Raider because it is legitimately probably the coolest gun I own. I don't know. That's a hard call. I think in a lot of people's opinions, this is the coolest gun I own. And I like having something pimping. It's, maybe that's not you or whatever, but I like having at least one toy that is something that everybody goes ooh over. That's worth something. Everything else I have anymore is kind of basic and plain Jane. My 1911 is pretty dope, but it's, a lot of people would turn their nose up at it. Ugh. The people that don't are the ones that get that the markings that are all over it are from holster presentations. Like, there's a shitload of wear marks on that gun, and it's got a cool rig, and it's a fucking cool gun. I'm in the process now of thinking of what I'm going to do to my car. That's car with a K, the 9mm car I bought. I want to get wood grips for it, and I think I'm going to flame them, like tiger stripe them with a torch. I don't know. I go back and forth on that. I think wood grips are definite. Flaming isn't maybe. And the other thing I think is I really like that gun. I think I'm really going to keep that gun. I might want to make sure it runs good before I start customizing it, but I might engrave it. And if I do engrave that gun, I probably would take it to a laser engraver. I don't know. I think I would take the slide to somebody and have it engraved. I like this gun quite a bit because it's a little heavy for what it is, but that means it's going to suck up a lot of recoil. It has the Kahr double action trigger. It's about the size of a PPK. It holds 7 rounds of 9mm. 8 if you do the +1, magazines. It has night sights on it. It's a nifty little gun, and it is like the companion piece to that Flex Raider. Like, those are my James Bond guns. That's why I don't want to sell that gun. And I kind of don't even want to modify the car that much. Like, there's a part of me that wants to leave the car all black, leave the Raider all black, and just have them as, like, sexy bitches guns or whatever. To me, like, it looks like the guns from a James Bond movie or something like that. Like, it's like an MP5 and a PPK, but it's like the modern version of the MP5 and just a better PPK. anything in 9mm is better than anything in 380. Them's the rules. Oh. I want to get a kukri too. I've been looking at kukris from Nepal on my wish list. Now we're just talking about weapons that I want to buy, so we might cut this off here. Unless I can think of some more preps, like the car build supplies. I want to put more lights on it, so a light bar is in that shit. Like that's the thing that really might get in the way of the skull pile. Like unless I do like the light bar and the skull pile and then the roof rack. Tell me your thoughts on the Mom Mobile of Doom. Do you think I'm doing something ridiculous? Do you like what I'm doing? Do you have any suggestions for things that I should do to it that would be even cooler? I'm kind of thinking now about on the side of the roof rack having it placed where like there's like hunting spears tied on, maybe. I don't know. Have a couple of bushmen hafted on fucking shafts and just have those there. I think I'm gonna have an axe fucking somewhere just on the outside of the van too. Like this is the stuff that like, maybe someone steals my shit. I hope they don't. I'm gonna have a bitchin' alarm system, and I'm hopefully going to be, parking it somewhere where it doesn't get fucked with. That's my plan. It's not exactly going to be a stealth rig. That's kind of not my point. I don't really dig the doing that. Like all the places I'd want to stealth camp, my camo paint job is going to help me. you know? I've always wanted to have, military vehicles. So like having the minivan command center that I'm making, I guess it suits me. Well, I've pretty much run out of things to say, so I'm going to cut this off here. I hope I didn't offend Black Scout Survivals fans that much, but man, that shit was boring as fuck. I'll see you guys later.